Good afternoon, camp meeting family. How are you doing? All right, you ready for exercise? I think he's got an exercise routine. No, maybe not. The length of life is important, but the quality of life is more important, isn't it? Do you think it's possible to reverse heart disease? Hopefully we'll find out how this afternoon. And as Dr. Deal comes out to give his presentation, let's prepare our hearts for this message by prayer. Father in heaven, I thank you so much for the health message. We pray that you'll help us to be balanced in our life, realize that the mental and the emotional and the physical health are all important, as well as the spiritual health, and that you're interested in every aspect of our lives. So this afternoon, help us to have ears that can hear and a willingness and a faith to put into practice what we learn. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah.
Yes, track 3.
Hello, everyone. There is something interesting that I have learned from Dr. Hans Deal, and I want to...
Yeah. Oh, no, it's not.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, he said that's the wrong song. That was the wrong audio.
Track number 3.
It's track number 3, guys.
Or, no? What, track number 1? It's track number 1.
Try track number 1. Try track number 1.
I want to be healthy.
I just want to be healthy. In my heart and my mind, it's my goal. I just want to be healthy. Keeping watch, keeping clean, keeping whole. I will run to the ends of the earth, teaching men of true health and its worth. I will jump for joy, proclaiming what the Lord has done. Want to be healthy in my time when I dine on the road. I just want to be healthy, sharing life, eating right, and the third is to walk in the path of His word, keeping free of diseases I've heard. Every day I'll exercise and trust in the Lord. I just want to be healthy. Lord, I want to be healthy. Give me grace to be healthy. Yes, I want to be healthy. Lord, I want to be healthy.
Are you with me? You want to be healthy? You can do it. But you have to make a decision. And I think the time is now to do it. Don't you think? Okay, let's take a quick look here where we are. The cause and cure of modern killer diseases, part 1, we talked about the cause of these modern diseases, and we identified the fork and the knife of being weapons of mass destruction. Today we're going to talk about part 2, and that has to do with healing modern killer diseases. We need sound.
Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide. The average Canadian will spend their last 10 years in sickness. Change your future at makehealthlast.ca.
So, what did you pick up? What did you get out of that 1-minute clip? Anybody? It's your choice. What else? We are what we eat. When do you start? When you're 70? 80? No, you start now. You're starting in the womb, actually, we learned. You know what I get out of it? Don't be a Canadian. Except that we probably have the same situation that our Canadian neighbors have. So today we want to talk about, by way of review, fork and knife, weapons of mass destruction. And
he had just returned from a family visit in Italy. Now he was getting ready for a Sunday assignment, Meet the Press. But he never got to his assignment because at 1:30 that afternoon, the killer struck without any warning, and they found him collapsed on the floor. At 1:44, the rescue team arrived, applied CPR, but all efforts came too late. He was gone. Listed by Time magazine as among the 100 most influential people in the world, Tim Russert was pronounced dead at the age of 58.
I'm Tom Brokaw, NBC News, and it is my sad duty to report this afternoon that my friend and colleague, Tim Russert, the moderator of Meet the Press and NBC's Washington bureau chief, collapsed and died early this afternoon while at work at the NBC News Bureau in Washington. Tim had just returned from a family trip to Italy with his wife, Maureen Orth, the writer, and his son, Luke. They were celebrating Luke's graduation from Boston College just this spring. Tim, of course, has been the host of Meet the Press longer than any other person in that long-running television broadcast. And I think I can invoke personal privilege to say that this news division will not be the same without his strong, clear voice. He'll be missed as he was loved greatly.
First sign of heart disease for majority of people, sudden death. The first sign. There's not much you can do after that. That's why it is the time now to begin to think about what we can do to intelligently help ourselves, to put ourselves in alignment with God's plan for our lives. Are you with me? We talked about the idea that this disease is really a progressive disease. It starts very minusculely, but then gradually, by the time you're 45, you're already 60% narrowing of your coronary arteries. And this disease is not only affecting the coronary arteries, but all the arteries of the body, the major arteries. Do you know how many miles of blood vessels the human body has? You want to guess? How many miles do you have in your body in terms of vessels? 60,000 miles. And most of these vessels are smaller than the thickness of your hair, capillaries. And the red blood cells that travel through these capillaries. They're just barely large, just small enough to pass through these small capillaries, and you have 5 million red blood cells at the tip of your pen. 5 million, wonderfully and fearfully made. Our bodies, temples, on loan by the Creator God. Let's take care of that body that He has entrusted to us. What do you say? So, we are talking about really a disease process that is affecting all the vessels in the body, particularly the cerebral arteries, the arteries of the eye, of the ear, the coronary arteries, the arteries to the kidney, the male sex organ arteries. You know, all these arteries become affected by this process called atherosclerosis, a gradual narrowing of the arteries where they are filling in with cholesterol, calcium, and dead cells. And we talked about this briefly, that there are risk factors that are the drivers of the disease process. We talked about the importance of cholesterol as the most important one, and then blood pressures and smoking. These are the 3 cardinal risk factors. And then you have diabetes and obesity, triglycerides, and an inactive lifestyle, and perhaps some stress. The closer these risk factors are towards the center, the more powerful they are in driving the disease. Genes are no longer that important. We used to say to patients, well, you want to live a long life? Pick the right grandparents. Well, no, it's no longer true. Genes can be overridden very easily through a concept of epigenetics, and epigenetics means that you can override the expression of the genes by the way of life that you have chosen. So let's sort of review the winds of change that happened in the 1970s when our diet began to change dramatically in North America. 2 major dietary shifts. Number 1, from whole food to industrialized processes. We talked about this. From slow foods to fast foods, from eating at home to eating out, right? And then the second major dietary shift was we increased our consumption of animal products. We got the idea that white meat is good, better than red meat. We were on the wrong track. Folks, if it's meat, it's cholesterol. Cholesterol is only found in animal products. It doesn't matter whether it's white or red. Be careful. It doesn't matter whether it's fish. It's cholesterol. Then we also began to understand something about cheese, that cheese is the #1 source of saturated fat, which is the main driver that causes the liver to make excessive drives of cholesterol, which adds to the cholesterol that you eat. So there are 2 drivers of our cholesterol in our bloodstream. One is the cholesterol that you eat in the food, only in animal products, and number 2, the amount of saturated fat that you have in the food that doesn't have to be from animal sources, but anytime you have saturated fat, you are actually promoting the production of internally made cholesterol. And the #1 source of saturated fat in the American diet today, more than anything else, is cheese. I know you don't want to hear that. I know that's painful, especially when you think about your potlucks at church. Folks, I don't know how we have the courage to pray and thank the Lord for giving us all this cheese at these potluck dinners. This is not the way that we can honor God, really. We need to think through this. We need to really think about it a little bit more. I know it's very addictive. Don't bring it into the house. Then you won't eat it at home. We also talked about the importance of empty calories. Empty calories are junk food calories. They have no nutritional value. They just have taste sensations. They're addictive. And that's why they are so tempting and so attractive. But they're not promoting your health. They're undermining your health. And then we talked about population studies. We talked about the idea that when you have a society, a country where you don't have heart disease, where you don't have diabetes, where you don't have high blood pressure, where you don't have obesity, when you bring in the American diet, within 5 to 10 years, you have an epidemic of Western diseases. Do you live like Americans? you die like Americans. The University of Japan, the University, to be exact, of Tokyo, in the 1960s, would purchase coronary arteries from Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore so that they could show medical students at the university what killed then every second American from atherosclerotic plaques in the arteries. They had to buy them because they didn't have any heart disease, coronary arteries that were diseased in Japan in the 1960s. But all of that changed. Japan no longer has to buy coronary arteries from America. They have become very self-sufficient. They can grow their own now. They eat like Americans and they die like Americans. I could talk to you about Lithuania, where I spent 4 or 5 years now in trying to help the government to shift towards a diet like we're talking about here in the CHIP program. Move towards less meat, less cheese, less refined foods, less M&Ms, less monster drinks. They have all these things that we have here in America because they think we have now freedom from the Russians. Now we can really enjoy life. And they don't realize that the heart disease death rate in Lithuania in the last 20 years has doubled after they kicked the Russians out and brought the American foods in. So what are the problems with animal products? I'm not against animal products because I happen to be a person that has compassion towards animals. I'm not against animal products because I have chosen to be a vegetarian. No, I want to give you the science of it. Number one, whenever you think of meat products, they're concentrated calories that push together in a small package, lots of calories, because animal products are usually high in fat. 50 to 80% of the calories in a steak comes from fat. Number two, the main source of saturated fat. Saturated fat comes mostly from animal sources, but also from these special oils that come from the Orient. Palm oils, coconut oils. They're highly, highly saturated fats. They are not in your best interest because they cause the liver to go into overdrive in producing cholesterol. Number three, animal products are the only sources of cholesterol directly. The most concentrated source of cholesterol is egg yolks. Are you with me there? Okay. These animal products have no fiber. The American public only gets about 10 grams of fiber. We should get probably 40 to 50 to 60 grams a day. And when you do this, you don't have to worry about constipation anymore. Your food goes through in 24 hours. What you eat today, you can find it 24 hours from now. But not in America. In America, it takes 3 to 4 to 5 days before you can find it again because we don't have enough fiber in the diet. And the fiber holds water, and it makes the evacuation process very easy, and you don't have to worry about, I got one today again. Mark it on the calendar, 1 a week. No, every day. It's easy, smooth. You're on the go. You're on the move. Then number 5, animal protein is carcinogenic. That means it contributes in a specialized, direct fashion to cancer, especially colon cancer. And then number 6, animal protein promotes bone loss. It's one of the main reasons why we have so much osteoporosis in our society. So animal products like dairy, highly related to osteoporosis and fractures of the bone. So this is the American diet. We talked about this. Only 14% of the calories that we eat will come from foods that come out of the hand of a master designer. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, lentils, lots of beans. We should eat beans 2-3 times a day. I told this to an audience, and a man came to me after and said, "Sir, do you understand that beans are antisocial?" I said, "Don't worry about it. After about 2 or 3 weeks, it's all taken care of." Because the body just has to make an adjustment to the intake of the excessive amount, suddenly, of fiber that beans are known for. So you can do it very slowly and introduce the beans gradually, and you won't have to worry about the gas situation. I mean, usually in the CHIP program, there's never been a gas shortage. It always takes about 2 to 3 weeks, and then everything calms down. So please note, 55% of the calories that we eat are refined foods, engineered foods that are made for profit, not for health. And then here you see an attorney writing, our diet-related disease epidemic is fueled by the powerful meat, dairy, and junk food industries supported by government policies that place profit over public health. And then you come to Loma Linda, you come to the blue zone. Well, actually, people think that if I move to Loma Linda and I get a property there, then I live to be 100 years. Folks, it's not the land, it's not the air, it's not the location, it's the fact that these people are Adventists, and Adventists anywhere in the world live 5 to 10 to 15 longer than anybody in that particular country, because Adventists live a different lifestyle. And that lifestyle was entrusted to them in 1863 through a divine vision given to Ellen G. White. Amazing. Amazing. And yet, when you look at North American Adventists, please note, 50% of the Adventists in North America are still meat eaters. 10% are vegetarians that eat fish, 31% are vegetarians that eat eggs and dairy, and only 9% of all the Adventists in North America are truly plant-based people. And folks, let me add something here. When you have an airplane, it has to have 2 wings, right, to fly. Folks, if you're a vegetarian, you have only 1 wing. You have to be more than just a vegan. You have to be whole food. You can be a vegan junkie. Are you with me? You don't want to be a junkie even though you are not eating any meat or animal products. You want to move towards a plant-based diet that's also whole food, not engineered foods. So just to give you some idea, this is the Adventist Health Study. They took 100,000 Adventists in North America, and they followed them for 7 years, and they gave them long questionnaires. They had to fill out everything. It took some 4 to 5 hours to fill all these questionnaires out, and then they followed these people for the next 7 years, and they found that the Adventist women that were meat eaters, on the average, weighed 39 pounds more than the Adventist vegans. Ladies, you want to lose weight? May I recommend the green color? Green color stands for plant-based. Now, if you want to lose more weight, then also go whole foods. Then they looked at men, and Adventist men that are meat eaters on the average weigh about 32 pounds more than the Adventists that were not eating any animal products. The same thing is true with diabetes. The Adventist meat eaters had about 4 times more diabetes than the Adventists that were vegans, and the same thing true for hypertension, about 4 times more high blood pressure in this group here when compared to those that were in the plant-based, plant food-centered dietary program. And then you have Adventists, when it comes to cholesterol, meat eaters have 5 times more often the need for medication, they think, to bring the cholesterol down than vegan people here. So it's very obvious, 100,000 people have demonstrated to the world, and this is being discussed in large medical seminars about the Adventists that are moving towards, the more you move towards a plant-based diet, you see the lower the risk for needing medication because of high cholesterol. Now, if you are in this category here, may I suggest to you, move towards the lacto-ovo diet here. Move towards this one here. If you cannot make the shift all at once, go from here to here. And then, you know, after a while, you begin to realize, well, maybe I don't need that cheese anymore, and these eggs, and the puddings. I don't really need it. This is not what God really wanted me to do. And so here's a word from Ellen G. White. She said, I saw that many sickly among the church members who made themselves so by indulging their appetites. It tastes good, so I do it. Hello? We are intelligent beings. We're not just animals that follow instincts. We're intelligent beings. We understand something about nutrition now. Why don't we apply it? If we wish good health, we must take special care of the health that God has given us. We must deny the unhealthy and perverted appetites. Oh, I love these foods. Perverted appetite. It's a very clear language, isn't it? And I say it with some pain in my heart as I share that with you, because I want to be a winsome person. I want to win you over to the best lifestyle possible that gives you longer and healthier lives. And being able to serve God and our fellow human beings. We need to eat less of the refined foods. Hello? And we need to eat more coarse food. That means lots of fiber-containing foods, free of grease and fats and oils. Hello? Who said that? A lady with a grade 3 education who had 2,000 visions and who wrote 40-some books, with some of them considered to be the most outstanding books ever written, especially The Desire of Ages by the Library of Congress, considered to be the most important biography on the life of Jesus Christ. And then her most important book, The Great Controversy, that gives you a look behind the scenes, what is really taking place. Can we move this? We have a little bit of a problem here. Do we have a different clicker? Hello? So, as I was closing yesterday, I was trying to make the suggestion that the scientific community is very clear that probably up to 80% of our chronic disease and premature death could be prevented by making significant changes in how we eat and in our lifestyle. In addition, we may live 7 to 14 years longer, healthy lives. And so this is what causes the disease, fork and knife. On the other hand, my question is, what would happen? We know we can prevent these diseases. And you say to yourself, well, look, it's too late for me to prevent these diseases. I already have heart disease. I have struggled with diabetes. I'm overweight. I know that every pound of weight that you carry in excess of what you should have, you're shaving off 1 month of your life. You're 50 pounds overweight, you're shaving off 50 months of life, which is about 4 or 5 years of your life, aside from contributing to the other diseases that obesity is associated with. Folks, we need to do something about this. What can we do? Can we possibly arrest these diseases? Can we disarm these diseases? Or can we even reverse these diseases? I mean, can you do what no physician can do, that what no medication can do, what no surgery can do, what you can do? If you make some lifestyle changes, you can open up these coronary arteries again. You can improve even the sight to your eyes. You might even improve the hearing capacity that you have, because they're all dependent on the nutrients and the oxygen that's delivered by these arteries that are often narrowed down excessively. People have come to me and they said, I used to be impotent. Hey, 6 months later on the program, everything's different. It's really different. Should I pay you for this? I said, no, it's okay. You deserve it because you have made the effort. I'm just trying to remove the blinds from your eyes, but you are the ones that get all the credit because you have made the difficult choice of implementing these concepts. And it's hard to do. The temptation is there every time. Right?
Dr. John McDougall and Dr. Hans Diehl are with us talking about reversing heart disease by eating the right foods. So, can you give us some examples of how this has worked? You have a special program for this.
We have 50,000 stories.
50,000 stories.
We have 50,000 graduates of the CHIP program. Now, this is not potato chips or
No,
Okay,
no.
okay.
Tell us what is the CHIP program?
It's a community-based program where people come for 40 hours of education. And we help them to understand the science of why we perhaps should make some wiser choices. And then we show them how to do it. And so as they come to us in groups of 50 people or 500 people, they begin to interact among themselves. There's a magic of working with other people. You're not the only one that is making changes. And
That's big, isn't it?
it is.
Because you feel like you're kind of the Lone Ranger. You're the only one over here eating your potato when somebody else is, you know.
Yeah, but it's also an accountability structure.
Yes.
So if somebody's inspired, how do they find out about a CHIP program?
Well, they can go on a website. They can find it right there. There are CHIP chapters all over the country. They can sign up and they can join the program. It's run in churches. It's run in hospitals. It's run in corporations.
Community centers.
So you've just
all
spread
kinds
this
of
far and
things.
wide in order to get as many people involved with the CHIP program as possible.
And I've been involved a little bit with these CHIP programs, and they do exactly what needs to be done. They take people who are struggling with disease, or they want to prevent disease and are hooked on the American diet, don't know anything different.
Sure.
And they teach them, they give them community, they give them support, they give them success. I mean, and for almost no money at all. It's just an amazing program. And Hans and I have been together for probably 25 years, and I've seen his work. And I would have to say he's done more, and this is not an exaggeration, he's done more to help people from around the world in a practical manner than anybody I know through these CHIP programs.
That's exciting.
Did you hear that right? Can you say that again?
Dr. Hans Deal has done more to help the average man and woman in this country over 25 years of work, just getting in their faces, getting in their homes, and telling them that they don't have to be sick, and then showing them how to do it through the CHIP programs. Everybody needs to be involved in these.
Well, Dr. McDougall, you're probably overdoing it a little bit there, right? I mean, after all, CHIP is not my story. CHIP is really God's story. CHIP is a story of a young Lutheran young man that came to Canada and to America and found his calling in helping people to clean out their arteries, not just the arteries to the heart, but also the arteries to the mind, because that's where the last struggle is going to be, when the great decisions are being made in favor or against the advances of God. It's all about clear minds. And it starts with the coronary arteries, and it should be affecting your whole system. 60,000 miles. You're eating for health, not just for taste. And taste comes along with it after about 20, 30 days. So today we want to talk about fork and knife, instruments of health, hope, and healing. We talked about the cause of these diseases. We want to talk now about the hope, the reversal, the healing of these diseases. Here's Dr. Burkett, a very famous man. He was given the chance to respond to a special presentation that was offering him something like the Nobel Prize in America. And he said, the greatest medical discovery of the last 20 years, this was done in 1992, the greatest medical discovery of the last 20 years was the understanding that our Western diseases, our modern chronic diseases, are largely lifestyle related, and therefore they must be preventable and potentially reversible. He was a prophet that said these words in 1992. I was a personal friend of his. I valued that relationship very, very deeply. Came from England regularly to work with me here in North America. Well, let me talk to you about President Clinton. 2004, chance of a heart attack, and they provided a quadruple bypass surgery, and they thought everything was fine. And 6 years later, with recurring chest pain, he had to do some double stenting to keep the restenosing artery open. What is that to say? It says that these bypasses don't last. 40% of these bypasses are no longer functional within 18 months, and you just spend $150,000, and you say, well, I didn't pay that, somebody else did. Well, we all paid for it as a society.
I was lucky I didn't die.
Can you turn the volume
Former
up?
President Clinton, like too many people, was busy. And for years, he ignored warning signs from his heart. But in 2004, during an exhausting book tour, there was something different.
I had a real tightness in my chest when I was getting off the airplane, and it was the only time I'd had it unrelated to exercise.
We're here outside New York Presbyterian Hospital. In just a couple of hours, President Bill Clinton, former president, is scheduled to undergo surgery.
So I immediately went down to our local hospital, and they did a test. They said, you got real problems. They hustled me down to Columbia Presbyterian, and they confirmed the determination that I had serious blockage and needed the surgeries.
The doctors immediately knew options were limited. The 58-year-old Clinton needed to have his chest opened, his heart stopped, and surgery performed.
There's no medical treatment for reversing the obstructions that have already formed in his blood vessels.
I got Hillary and Chelsea there, and all I remember is it was happening fast, and everybody who cared about me was scared, and I felt rather serene. I thought, gosh, we dodged a bullet. I didn't have a heart attack.
On Labor Day in 2004, Mr. Clinton had 4 blood vessels bypassed.
Starting this morning around 8 o'clock, he had a relatively routine quadruple bypass operation. We left the operating room around noon, and he is recovering normally at this point. So I think right now everything looks straightforward.
Bypass surgery. It can be very helpful under emergency conditions. The same is true when you have statin drugs that are used to lower your cholesterol, especially if you already had a heart attack. They can be helpful. But these drugs, the most successful drugs ever manufactured in the history of the world, statin drugs, are not doing anything for you if they're given to you to prevent that first heart attack. The only way that you can prevent that first heart attack is by lowering the cholesterol through the fork and knife. The fork and knife has an influence and an effect in taking care of the heart itself, while the drugs only bring the cholesterol numbers down but don't really reshape the arteries. There's no evidence, the medical journal says here, that prescribing cholesterol-lowering drugs known as statins to patients at risk for heart disease will reduce their chances of premature death in the short term over the next 4 years. What they found is they would give 100 people that were subject to potentially developing a heart attack, they would give them these powerful statin drugs for 5 years, 100 people, 5 years, at a cost of $500,000 for the drugs. At the end of 5 years, they will have saved 1, maybe 2 heart attacks. Folks, these drugs are promoted by the medical profession, by the system as the ultimate answer for lowering cholesterol. It brings the cholesterol down, it does, but it does not reverse or prevent that first heart attack. That you can only do by changing your cholesterol, by making dietary changes. And yet this is what we do here in America, right? We have this idea. See the doctor to diagnose the ill, match it with a pill, send you home with a bill, next one, 15 minutes later, next patient. Ill, pill, bill. And we have 15 minutes to do it in the medical offices. What can we do? So the prescription pad is always there. It takes just a couple of minutes and you're done. But it doesn't solve the underlying disease problem. We need to take care of the cause rather than the symptoms. Here's an article in the New England Journal of Medicine, a very important medical journal. With the advent of direct-to-consumer advertising, like on television and so on, for pharmaceuticals and surgical procedures, cultural expectations of immediate, simplistic solutions have been bolstered by consumerism and fully exploited to generate demand for therapies that are often marginally indicated and potentially unsafe. Folks, have you ever listened to a television drug promotion? They tell you all the things that the drug will do, and then they give you all the reasons, and death side effects. And you don't seem to listen to that, do you? Because you figure, oh, that's happening to the other person, but not to me. I'll be okay. Right? We need to have more respect for these drugs. Because after all, these are the medication. Prescription drugs are the number 3 cause of death in America. First one is heart disease, second one is cancer, and number 3 is prescription drugs. Use that with clear understanding of what these drugs will do to you and whether they're really indicated. Then you have bypass surgery. We do about $500,000 every year, $150,000. And here is the data. About 40% of these bypasses are closed within 12 to 18 months. The grafts are failing. They're no longer working, and now you have to have a second bypass for another $150,000. The best we can say is that only about 10% of heart attack patients had their life extended after bypass surgery. It's oversold. You can do more for yourself in most cases than what medical care can do for you when it comes to these chronic diseases. Amen. Take a look at this one here. What do you see here? Tell me, what do you see? What do you see? You see people on the floor here. There's water on the floor. They're all mopping frantically. They're passing out umbrellas to everybody there, and they're hoping that somehow they can keep the floor dry. And what's wrong with the picture? What's wrong? The pipes are leaking, right? What we need is not, in this case here, to have a doctor and nurses taking care of mopping up and mopping up and mopping up. What you need is a plumber that is sealing the cause of the problem. The cause is within you. You can only change the cause of these problems. How you eat, how you drink, do you exercise? Are you a kind person? You know, when I left last Sunday, and I said bye-bye to my mahal, my Filipino wife, I said, honey, I just want to leave those 12 red roses here for you so that you will remember me. I'm going to be back in a week's time. I've been doing some of these kind of things for probably the last 50 years of our married life, where as often as I could when I traveled, I would always leave some flowers behind on a Friday afternoon so that on Sabbath she knew he's thinking of me. Men, think about that. I was in Taiwan, and I had a large group of people there, men and women, couples. And at the end of my seminar, I said, I want to talk to you men now. It's not just eating right and drinking right and not smoking and all these kind of things. They're all important. But what about kindness to your spouse? No, I understand there are different languages of love. I know. But giving flowers is just one language of love to let the person know you're thought about. And I said, how many of you can tell me when did you give flowers to your spouse, to your wife last time? One man raised his hand. He said, at the wedding 35 years ago. And another man raised his hand, and sir, what's the situation with you? Oh, I gave my flowers on Valentine's Day. This is in Taiwan. And she ribbed him and said, tell him what year it was. See, we take these things so for granted. And sometimes that special person is gone. and then you give flowers on the graveside. Let's do it now. The time is now. So medical technology has excellent treatments for acute situations. In medicine, we are unexcelled in acute and emergency care, but for chronic disease, the cures are very rare and rarely ever found, because the cures reside within us. They are lifestyle diseases. And please note, this medical approach towards disease after the fact, managing these chronic diseases, just managing, not curing. 86% of our medical dollars in America is spent on managing the symptoms but not curing. And you can see here, we used to spend 5% of our income on medical care in the 1960s. Now it is 20% of our income is spent on medical care, and we are living shorter lives now than 2 years ago and last year. But we all know that you can reverse this disease. All you have to do is feed monkeys a typical hospital diet. You create the atherosclerotic plaque, the narrowing of the arteries, and then you put them on a very simple monkey food diet, fruits and vegetables and what they love to eat. And guess what? Within 1 year, these monkeys, the arteries begin to open up again, and we can demonstrate the same thing in human beings. This is a pretty good program here in Santa Barbara. You can see here the cholesterol levels drop by about 20 to 35% within less than 4 weeks, and all by making some simple dietary changes. And you say, well, so what? Well, let me tell you, so what? For every % drop in cholesterol, let's say you go from 250 down to 200, that's 50 points. 50 points you drop out of 250, that's 20% drop. 20% drop translates into 2.5 times the amount of coronary risk. So if you drop your cholesterol from 250 down to 200, that means a 20% drop in your cholesterol times 2.5 times. You are now 2.5 times times 20. That's 50% reduction in the likelihood of a heart attack. And you can do it in 30 days. You can cut your risk of a heart attack in 30 days in half. You never knew how important it was what you put at the end of your fork and spoon, is it? Here's Dr. Ornish. He took 28 and 48 very seriously heart disease patients, 48 patients, and he divided them at random into 2 groups. One would follow his program, the other half would follow the doctor's programs. That's the American Heart Association in red. This is his program where he put people on a very low fat, 7%. The American diet is about 35% fat. The Adventist diet is about 35% fat as well. We're on a high-fat diet as Adventists. He put them on a very low-fat diet, only 7%. And it was total vegetarian. And he taught them stress management and no smoking and so on. And at the end of 1 year, here's what he found. At the end of 1 year, the cholesterol had dropped by 24%. Usually takes about 3 to 4 weeks. They kept it there at that level. And at the end of 1 year, 82% of the plaques, the buildup inside the arteries, had begun to melt down. The arteries had begun to open up, to widen. The luminal space became larger. The blood could flow more easily to the heart muscle and deliver the oxygen that you depend on. What about the other group? The usual care, the Medical Heart Association? Well, what they did after 1 year, they found that 53% had a worsening of the narrowing of the arteries. Folks, you have to become pretty committed to doing it right. Making a few little changes. Well, I used to eat 12 eggs a week. I settled down for 3 eggs a week. It's not enough. This is not time to play. This is time to be serious. If you really want to turn this disease around, you have to make a commitment. Here's Dr. Ornish. Newsweek. Ornish has scientifically proven that people can open their blocked arteries without drugs or surgery. He guides them through a rigorous lifestyle program. Here's Dr. Esselstyn from the famous Cleveland Clinic. He took 18 coronary patients that had seen their physicians for 8 years, and during those 8 years, seeing the best cardiologist in the world probably, these 18 patients had suffered 49 cardiovascular events. Seeing the best doctor doesn't mean that you can prevent these diseases unless you make changes. So then they came to him and they said, we're done. The surgeons can't do anything with us anymore. We already had surgery. We're at the end of our line. Can you help us? And he said, well, are you really serious about making some changes? And they said, yes. Are you prepared to let go of fats and oils and grease? Are you prepared to lower your salt and your sugar intake? Yes. Are you prepared to eat more fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lots of beans? Are you prepared to do this? They said, yes. We want to see our grandchildren grow up. We're going to do it. Well, there were actually 24 initially. 6 afterwards said, well, the program is too hard. I mean, we drop out. Okay, so there were 18 left. These 18 patients who had before had 49 cardiovascular events like a stroke or a heart attack or bypass surgery and so on in the previous 8 years, followed this program now. Over the next 12 years, there was not one cardiovascular event in these 18 patients. And what were they doing? Taking medications? None. What were they doing? Eating differently, particularly a very simple diet, because he wanted to prove that diet is more powerful than anything else that you can ever do. And as a matter of fact, he did some special sophisticated tests. These are like x-rays of the coronary arteries. This is a coronary artery here. You see it's all narrowed down because of atherosclerosis. There's very little blood flowing through here. And the same patient here, a doctor who didn't want to have a bypass, the same patient 2.5 years later, the same artery that you see here, wide open because it had opened up again because the doctor changed his diet. There's no question that we can change the buildup of atherosclerotic plaques in the arteries.
How did you lose so much weight? What kind of diet are you on?
Well, the short answer is I went on essentially a plant-based diet. I live on beans, legumes, vegetables, fruit, no dairy, and it changed my whole metabolism, and I lost 24 pounds, and I got back to basically what I weighed in high school. But I did it for a different reason. But, I mean, I wanted to lose a little weight, but I didn't dream this would happen. I did it because after I had this stent put in, I realized that even though it happens quite often that after you have bypasses, you lose the veins because they're thinner and weaker than arteries. The truth is that it clogged up, which means that the cholesterol was still causing buildup in my vein that was part of my bypass. And thank God I could take the stents. I don't want it to happen again. So I did all this research, and I saw that 82% of the people since 1986 who have gone on a plant-based, no dairy, no meat of any kind, no chicken, turkey, if you can do it, 82% of the people who've done that have begun to heal themselves. Their arterial blockage cleans up. The calcium deposit around their heart breaks up. This movement has been led by a doctor named Caldwell Esselstyn at the Cleveland Clinic, Dean Ornish in Minoa in California, the doctors Campbell, father and son, who wrote the China study, and a handful of others. But we now have 25 years of evidence. And so I thought, well, since I need to lose a little weight for Chelsea's wedding, I'll become part of this experiment. I'll see if I can be one of those that can have a self-clearing mechanism.
Did you hear that word? Self-clearing mechanism. There are very few people as effective in communication as President Clinton. He explained it very, very well. He said, we have 25 years of experience, and this was several years ago. Now it's more like 40 years of experience. We know exactly what we can do. We ourselves in the CHIP program have had over 110,000 people that have made these kind of changes around the world. After bypass surgery and double stenting, now Clinton has joined the lifestyle medicine movement in going beyond simply treating the symptoms of his coronary heart disease. He is now committed to attacking the causes of the disease, how you eat, how you drink, do you get enough sleep, do you exercise, are you a nice person? That's the new dietary lifestyle of President Clinton. What does he eat? Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, plenty of beans, lentils, maybe some nuts, some avocados.
All right, so can you cure heart disease just with food? The question might seem strange, but our Dr. Sanjay Gupta has living proof of it. It is part of his fantastic special report called The Last Heart Attack, which you can see this weekend on CNN. Sanjay joins us live from Atlanta now. Sanjay, you spent the last year looking into heart attack and heart disease for your special. You have a history of it in your family, and you've really studied how people can get away from that and get out from under that. What if you don't want to use medicine, statins, to reduce your risk of heart attack? Can you really use food as medicine?
Well, you know, it's interesting, Ali. Yeah, Hippocrates has talked about this for more than 1,000 years, and I walked into this with an open mind, but the answer is definitely yes, you can. And we did find living proof of this. Sharon Kintz is a woman that we profiled, 66 years old, had a heart attack, was told by her doctor she needed to have heart surgery, and she said no. And she basically adopted this plant-based diet. As you can see there, she's been very strict about it. You know, whole grains, lots of vegetables, been doing it for over a year. And it's quite remarkable, not only in how much she has not had any symptoms of heart problems, but also in terms of her energy levels. And this is something that I really focused on with her. She could barely walk before all of this. And literally now, a year later on this plant-based diet, she's able to jump rope. I mean, take a look at that, Ali. She couldn't do that before. And I'm not saying that obviously being on a plant-based diet taught her how to jump rope, but people always question, do you have enough energy still on one of these diets?
Right.
And we profiled her just to demonstrate.
All right, so it's a pretty serious diet. It's a pretty extreme way to go. Is there science that proves it's working other than the fact that she can jump rope and she's fit?
Well, yes, there's a couple of different things. First of all, people really oftentimes want objective signs to show that there's changes in someone's blood vessels. And we talked about this before, Ali, not just in terms of showing a slowing of heart disease, but an actual reversing of heart disease. In order to prove that, a patient would have to undergo another angiogram. Sharon's doing so well, she said she had no need to undergo an angiogram. But let me show you a patient who did do that. And this is over a period of a few years. Take a look over here, and I don't know if you can appreciate this, where the arrow is. This is a coronary blood vessel, and this is what one of those narrowings looks like. This is what a heart attack waiting to happen looks like. This is someone who decided not to undergo surgery, which was recommended, instead using food as medicine. And take a look now over here, same spot, and that coronary blood vessel is essentially, it's opened up. It's about the same normal caliber as the rest of the blood vessel.
So what do we recommend in closing then? Well, we need a new cow. Are you with me? We need a new cow to move forward in health. We also need to take a look at what Harvard University recommends. They recommend this is what a healthy eating plate should look like. Lots of vegetables, lots of green vegetables, lots of fruits, lots of whole grains, and some healthy protein, and that actually includes particularly, prominently, beans and lentils, and beans and lentils, and beans and lentils. And what about milk? They recommend you don't need milk in the human diet. Humans were not designed to drink milk. Drink your 8 glasses of water and you'll be fine. And here's the Physicians Committee for Responsive Medicine. What do they recommend? More fruits, more legumes, more whole grains, more vegetables. Same thing. And then you have a simple lady from Battle Creek with a great tree education who wrote more than 100 years ago, our diet should be simple, foods as grown, as they come out of the hand of the master designer. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, these are the beans, and some nuts and seeds and plenty of water. Ellen G. White is right on target with today's scientific findings. She's very relevant. She's very current. I'll tell you more about it tomorrow morning when I talk to you about the Adventist health message. This is the diet that we should pursue. Foods that are coming out of the hand of a master designer, You add some bread, eat lots of beans, and you have a wonderful diet. And if necessary, you take some vitamin B12 shots once in a while or some tablets and you'll be just fine. Please note as I close, our fat consumption, this is the American consumption pattern, should really be reduced from 120 grams to more than 40 grams of fats. Cholesterol should be really going from 400 milligrams down to as little as nothing. If you're vegetarian, it would be automatically zero, right? Right? Then sugars, we take in about 35 teaspoons of sugars per day. We should reduce it to less than 10. Salt, we probably should cut salt in half. When it comes to fiber, automatically when you eat the right foods, you get 4 to 5 times more fiber, which is what you want, particularly when it comes to diabetes. And be sure you don't forget to drink your 8 glasses of water. The closing slide, we put it all together very well. You see people come to me and say, well, I cannot make those changes all overnight. I can't do it. It's overwhelming. I don't even try because it would be another failure in my life. I said, no. All you have to do is, once you realize that these are the kind of foods that you see here are also providing you with the worst health outcomes. The diseases are here. Chronic diseases are right here. And you say you cannot jump from here to there. Why don't you get on the trajectory and gradually cut back on these kind of foods here and begin to enlarge the good, healthy foods that are associated with disease reversal and wonderful health. Is that what you want? In closing, afflicted by chronic disease, changing the food you eat, Dr. Blum wrote, is the single most powerful lifestyle change you can make to restore your health. The first 2 lectures in the afternoon, summarized here. Fork and knife can either be weapons of mass destruction or they can be instruments of hope, health, and healing. Food can either be the slowest form of poison or food can be the safest and most powerful form of medicine. God is good. Let us join Him in what He provided for us. Shall we pray? Our Father in heaven, give us wisdom. Give us strength. Help us to make decisions for you. May the Holy Spirit guide us in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you.